and right judgment. But since true wisdom begins with the fear of Jehovah God, PS 111. 10. PR 9. 10. This superior wisdom goes beyond ordinary wisdom and includes holding to high standards, manifesting righteousness and uprightness, as well as adhering to truth. PR 1. 2, 3, 20-22. 2. 2-11. 6. 6. 8. 1, 5-12. Not all wisdom measures up to that superior wisdom. Human wisdom is never absolute but is relative. Wisdom on a limited scale is attainable by man through his own efforts, though he must in any case use the intelligence with which God, who even gave the animals certain instinctive wisdom. Job 35. 11. PR 30. 24-28. Initially endowed man. Man learns from observation of, and working with, the materials of God's creation. Such wisdom may vary in type and extent. The Greek word fire is often applied to skill in a certain trade or craft, to skill and sound administrative judgment in governmental and business fields, or to extensive knowledge in some particular field of human science or research. Similarly, the Hebrew choke mar and char are used to describe the skillfulness of sailors and ship caulkers as 27. 8, 9. Compare PS 107. 23, 27 and of workers in stone and wood 1 ch 22. 15, as well as the wisdom and skill of other craftsmen, some having great talent in a wide variety of crafts. 1 Chi 7. 14. 2 ch 2. 7, 13, 14. Even the skilled image carver or idol maker is described by such terms. Issa 40. 20. Ch 10. 3-9. The shrewd practice of the business world is a form of wisdom. As 28. 4, 5. All such wisdom may be had even though the possessors lack the spiritual wisdom the scriptures particularly advocate. Nevertheless, God's Spirit may enhance some of these types of wisdom where they are useful in accomplishing His purpose. His Spirit activated those constructing the tabernacle and its equipment as well as those weaving the priestly garments, men and women, filling them with both wisdom and understanding. Thereby they not only understood what was desired in the means for accomplishing the work, but also displayed the talent, artistry, vision, and judgment necessary to design and produce superb work. Acts 28. 3. 31. 3-6. 35. 10, 25, 26, 31, 35. 36. 1, 2, 4, 8. Ancient wise men. Men noted for their wisdom and counsel were anciently prized by kings and others, even as in modern times. Egypt, Persia, Chaldee, Edom, and other nations had their bodies of wise men. Acts 7. 11. As 1. 13. Ch 10. 7. 50. 35. Albeit such bodies evidently included the priests and government officials, but were not restricted to such. They probably included all those elders of the nations who were particularly known for their wisdom and who resided near the capital so as to be available for counseling. Compare GE 41. 8. PS 105. 17-22. Issa 19. 11, 12. J 51. 57. The monarchs of Persia had a privy council of 7 wise men for quick consultation as 1. 13-15, and lesser Persian officials might have their own staff of wise men. As 6. 13. Joseph, by the help of God's Spirit, displayed such discretion and wisdom that Egypt's ruling pharaoh made him his prime minister. G 41. 38-41. Acts 7. 9, 10. Moses was instructed in all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was powerful in his words and deeds even prior to God's making him his spokesman. But this human wisdom and ability did not qualify Moses for God's purpose. After his first attempt at the age of about 40 to bring relief to his Israelite brothers, Moses had to wait another 40 years before God sent him forth, a spiritually wise man, to lead Israel out of Egypt. Acts 7. 22-36. compared to 34. 9. Solomon was already wise before entering into full kinship. 1 Kai 2. 1, 6, 9, yet he humbly acknowledged himself but a little boy in prayer to Jehovah and sought his aid in judging God's people. He was rewarded with a wise and understanding heart unequaled among Judah's kings. 1 Kai 3. 7-12 His wisdom surpassed Otextoi acute Miritra Longo. Wisdom 1192 bring about his downfall. 2 Sa 16. 15-23. 17. 1-14 As Paul wrote of God, He catches the wise in their own cunning. And again, Jehovah knows that the reasonings of the wise men are futile. 1 Co 3. 19, 20. Compare X1. 9, 10, 20, 21. Lu 20. 19-26. Apostate priests, prophets, and wise men of the Israelite nation in time lead the people to oppose God's counsel and commands as spoken by his loyal servants. 18. 18 As a result, Jehovah caused the wisdom of their wise men to perish and the understanding of their discreet men to conceal itself. As 29. 13, 14. 8. 8, 9, bringing the 500-year-old kingdom to ruin as he later did to Jerusalem's proud destroyer, Babylon, and to the boastful dynasty of Tyre. Isra 47. 10-15. As 28. 2-17 They rejected spiritual wisdom in favor of fleshly wisdom. The vanity of much of human wisdom. Investigating the calamitous occupation that sin and imperfection have brought mankind, King Solomon weighed the value of the wisdom that men in general develop and attain and found it to be a striving after wind. The disorder, perversion, and deficiencies in imperfect human society were so far beyond man's ability to straighten out or compensate for, that those getting an abundance of wisdom experienced increased frustration and irritation, evidently because they became acutely conscious of how little they could personally do to improve matters. EC 1. 13-18. 7. 29. Compare 08. 19-22, where the apostle shows God's provision for ending mankind's enslavement to corruption and subjection to futility. Solomon also found that while such human wisdom produced varied pleasures and proficiency that brought material wealth, it could not bring true happiness or lasting satisfaction. The wise man dies along with the stupid, not knowing what will become of his possessions, and his human wisdom ceases in the grave. EC 2. 3-11, 16, 18-21. 4. 4. 9. 10. Compare PS 49. 10. Even in life, time and unforeseen occurrence might bring sudden calamity, leaving the wise without even such basic needs as food. EC 9. 11. 12 By his own wisdom man could never find out the work of the true God, never gain solid knowledge of how to solve man's highest problems. EC 8. 16, 17. Compare Job chap 28. Solomon does not say human wisdom is utterly without value. Compared with mere foolishness, which he also investigated, the advantage of wisdom over folly is like that of light over darkness. For the wise man's eyes are in his head, serving his intellectual powers, whereas the stupid man's eyes do not see with thoughtful discernment. EC 2. 12-14. Compare PR 17. 24. Mount 6. 22, 23. Wisdom is a protection of greater value than money. EC 7. 11, 12 But Solomon showed that its worth is all relative, entirely dependent on its conformity to God's wisdom and purpose. EC 2. 24. 3. 11-15, 17. 8. 12, 13. 9. When a person can be excessive in striving to manifest wisdom, pushing himself beyond the limits of his imperfect ability in a self-destructive course. EC 7. 16. Compare 12. 12. But by obediently serving his Creator and being content with food, drink, and the good that his hard work brings him, God will give him the needed wisdom and knowledge and rejoicing. EC 2. 24-26. 12. 13. Contrasted with God's sacred secret. The world of mankind has developed a fund of wisdom over the centuries. Much of it is taught through its schools and by other means of instruction, while some is acquired by individuals through personal association with others or by experience. For the Christian, there is need to know the right attitude to adopt towards such wisdom. In an illustration of an unrighteous steward who manipulated his master's accounts with certain debtors so as to gain a secure future, Jesus described the steward as acting with practical wisdom (fromiddelnimos) discreetly. This shrewd foresight, however, was the practical wisdom of the sons of this system of otextoi acute miritra longo, Wisdom 1193. The world, its philosophy, were not in harmony with the truth, were contrary to God's wisdom in the sacred secret. So the world in its wisdom rejected God's provision through Christ as foolishness. Its rulers, though they may have been able and judicious administrators, even impaled the glorious Lord. 1 Co 1. 18. 2. 7, 8. But God, in turn, was now proving the wisdom of the worldly wise to be foolishness, putting their wise men to shame by using what they considered a foolish thing of God, as well as persons they deemed foolish, weak, and ignoble, to accomplish his invincible purpose. 1 Co 1. 19-28. Paul reminded the Corinthian Christians that the wisdom of this system of things and that of the rulers of this system of things would come to nothing. Hence such wisdom was not part of the apostles' spiritual message. 1 Co 2. 6, 13. He warned Christians in Colossae against being ensnared by the philosophy phi-low-so-fires, literally, love of wisdom and empty deception according to the tradition of man. Col 2. 8. Compare VSS 20-23. Despite its temporary benefits and successes, the world's wisdom was doomed to produce failure. But the Christian congregation of God's anointed had spiritual wisdom that led to the unfathomable riches of the Christ. Since that congregation formed part of God's sacred secret, by his dealings with it and his purposes fulfilled in it, he made known or revealed the greatly diversified wisdom of God through the congregation, even to the governments and the authorities in the heavenly places. F3. 8-11. 1. 17, 18. Compare 1p1. 12. Its members, having the mind of Christ. Compare php 2. 5-8, had knowledge and understanding vastly superior to that of the world, hence they could speak, not with words taught by human wisdom, but with those taught by the Spirit, with a mouth and wisdom opposers could not refute, though such Christians might be looked down upon as unlettered and ordinary by worldly standards. 1 Co 2. 11-16. Lu 21. 15. Ac 4. 13. 6. 9, 10. Waging spiritual warfare. The Apostle Paul relied on godly wisdom in waging spiritual warfare against any who threatened to pervert Christian congregations, such as the one in Corinth. 1 Co 5. 6, 7, 13. 2 Co 10. 3-6. Compare 2 Co 6. 7. He knew that wisdom is better than implements for fighting, and merely one sinner can destroy much good. EC 9. 18. 7. 19. His reference to overturning strongly entrenched things. 2 Co 10. 4 corresponds in idea to the Greek Septuagint rendering of part of Proverbs 21. 22. Paul knew the human tendency to give prime attention to those having impressive manner, obvious talent, or powerful personality in speech. He knew that the quiet speech of a wise man of little material wealth is often ignored in favor of those giving greater appearance of mightiness. Compare EC 9. 13-17. Even Jesus, who did not have the earthly wealth and position Solomon possessed but who had vastly superior wisdom, was shown little respect and attention by the rulers and people. Compare Mount 12. 42. 13. 54-58. Isla 52. 13-15. 53. 1-3. To some who boasted in fleshly abilities. Contrast J 9. 23, 24. Rather than in the heart, Paul's personal appearance was viewed as weak and his speech contemptible. 2 Co 5. 12. 10. 10 Yet he avoided any extravagance of speech or display of human wisdom and its power to persuade, so that his hearers' faith would be built up through God's Spirit and power and be founded on Christ rather than on men's wisdom. 1 Co 1. 17. 2. 1-5. 2 Co 5. 12 With spiritual foresight, Paul was a wise director of works, not of material construction, but of spiritual construction, working with God to produce disciples that manifested truly Christian qualities. 1 Co 3. 9-16. Hence, no matter how much of the world's wisdom one might have by virtue of skill in trades, shrewdness in commerce, administrative ability, or scientific or philosophic learning, the rule was O texto e acute miritra longo, Wisdom 11:94-16. 18, 19. Just 2. 1-9. Such wisdom is not apathetic toward wickedness but wars against it. PR 20. 26. Men selected for responsibility within the Christian congregation qualified, not on the basis of worldly success, fleshly wisdom, or natural abilities, but because of being full of spirit and godly wisdom. Acts 6. 1-5. Compare 1-3. 1-13. Tit 1. 5-9. Such ones were among the prophets and wise men and public instructors Jesus had promised to send out, and they could also serve as judges and counselors within the congregation, even as fleshly Israel had had its wise men who served in similar ways. Mount 23. 34. 1 Co 6. 5 They recognized the value of consulting together. PR 13. 10. 24. 5, 6. Compare Act 15. 1-22. Acquiring true wisdom. The proverb counsels: buy truth itself and do not sell it. Wisdom and discipline and understanding. PR 23. 23 Jehovah, the source of true wisdom, grants it generously to those who sincerely seek it and ask for it in faith, showing a wholesome, reverential fear of him. PR 2. 1-7. Ches 1. 5-8 But the seeker must spend time in study of God's word. Learn his commands, laws, reminders, and counsel. Consider the history of God's acts and doings. Then apply these in his life. D 4. 5, 6. PS 19. 7. 107. 43. 119. 98-101. PR 10. 8. Compare 2T3. 15-17. He wisely buys out the opportune time, not acting unreasonably in a wicked time, but perceiving what the will of Jehovah is. F5. 15-20. Col 4. 5, 6 He must develop firm faith and unshakable conviction that God's power is invincible, that his will is certain of success, and that his ability and promise to reward faithfulness are sure. Heb 11. 1, 6. 1 Co 15. 13, 14, 19. Only in this way can the person make right decisions as to his life course and not be swayed by fear, greed, immoral desire, and other damaging emotions. PR 2. 6-16. 3. 21-26. Isra 33. 2, 6 As wisdom personified says, happy is the man that is listening to me by keeping awake at my doors day by day, by watching at the posts of my entrances. For the one finding me will certainly find life, and gets goodwill from Jehovah. But the one missing me is doing violence to his soul. All those intensely hating me are the ones that do love death. PR 8. 34-36. 13. 14. 24. 13, 14. Wisdom in the heart. Intelligence is obviously a major factor in wisdom, yet the heart, which relates not just to thinking, but to motivation and affection as well, is clearly a more important factor in gaining true wisdom. PS 49. 3, 4. PR 14. 33. See heart. God's servant wants to get sheer wisdom in his secret self, have wise motivation in planning his life course. Compare PS 51. 6, 10. 90. 12. The heart of the wise is at his right hand, that is, ready to help and protect him at critical moments. Compare PS 16. 8. 109. 31. But the heart of the stupid is at his left hand, failing to direct him in the course of wisdom. EC 10. 2, 3. Compare PR 17. 16. Row 1. 21, 22. The truly wise person has trained and disciplined his heart in the way of wisdom. PR 23. 15, 16, 19. 28. 26. It is as though he had written righteous commandments and law upon the tablet of his heart. PR 7. 1-3. 2. 2, 10. Experience and right association. Experience contributes measurably to wisdom. Even Jesus grew in wisdom as he passed through childhood. Lu 2. 52. Moses assigned as chieftains men who were wise and discreet and experienced. Da 1. 13-15. While one learns a measure of wisdom from suffering punishment or by observing others receive it. PR 21. 11. A superior and time-saving way to wisdom is profiting by and learning from the experience of those already wise, preferring their company to that of inexperienced ones. PR 9. 1-6. 13. 20. 22. 17, 18. Compare 2ch 9. 7. Older persons are more likely to have such wisdom, particularly those who give evidence of having God's Spirit. Job 32. 7-9. This was illustrated notably at the time of Rehoboam's kingship. 1 Kai 12. 5-16. However, O text to acute miritra longo, Orman 1195. 13-18. The rod of haughtiness is in the mouth of the foolish one, but the very lips of the wise ones will guard them. They wisely hold back from presumptuous, harsh, or rash speech. PR 14. 3. 17. 27, 28. EC 10. 12-14. From the tongue and lips of the wise comes well thought out, healing, pleasant, beneficial speech. PR 12. 18. 16. 21. EC 12. 9-11. Call 3. 15, 16, and instead of stirring up trouble, they seek to bring calm and to win souls by wise persuasion. PR 11. 30. 15. 1-7. 16. 21-23. 29. 8. Those who become wise in their own eyes, elevating themselves above others, even above God, are worse off than the person who is stupid but does not pretend to be otherwise. PR 26. 5, 12. 12. 15. Such self-assuming persons are too proud to accept correction. PR 3. 7. 15. 12. ISA 5. 20, 21. Paradoxically, both the lazy man and the man who gains riches tend toward this attitude. PR 26. 16. 28. 11. Compare 1T6. 17. But an earring of gold, and an ornament of special gold, is a wise reprover upon the hearing. A PR 25. 12. Yes, give a reproof to a wise person and he will love you. PR 9. 8. 15. 31-33. Wisdom in the family. Wisdom builds up a household, not just a building, but the family and its successful life as a unit. PR 24. 3, 4. Compare PR 3. 19, 20. PS 104. 5-24. Wise parents do not hold back the rod and reproof, but by discipline and counsel they protect their children against delinquency. PR 29. 15. The wise wife contributes greatly to the success and happiness of the family. PR 14. 1. 31. 26. Children who wisely submit to parental discipline bring joy and honor to the family, upholding its reputation against slander or accusation, and give proof to others of their father's wisdom and training. PR 10. 1. 13. 1. 15. 20. 23. 24, 25. 27. 11. Witness. See legal case. Wolfheb. Zediev. Gr. Lycos. A carnivorous animal resembling a dog, a large German shepherd, but having longer legs, larger feet, a broader head, and stronger jaws. It is reported that in Palestine and Syria wolves usually hunt singly or in twos or threes, not in packs. They seek their prey under the cover of darkness, remaining in hiding during the day. Had 1. 8. Zep 3. 3 wolves are fierce, voracious, bold, and greedy, often killing more sheep than they can eat or drag away. The shepherd of ancient times therefore had to be courageous and resourceful to protect the flock from wolves. Joe 10. 12, 13. Most of the scriptural references to the wolf are illustrative. In his deathbed prophecy, Jacob likened his son Benjamin to a wolf, this undoubtedly with reference to the tribe's fighting abilities. G 49. 27. See Benjamin No. 2. The Unscrupulous Princes of Judaism 22. 27. False Prophets Mount 7. 15. Vicious Opposers of the Christian Ministry Mount 10. 16. Lu 10. 3. As well as false teachers that would endanger the Christian congregation from within Act 20. 29, 30, are compared to wolves. In contrast with the well-known despoilings by wolves J 5. 6. The wolf and the lamb are depicted as being at peace during Messiah's rule, feeding together as one. In addition to its application to changes in the lives of people, this prophetic picture doubtless indicates that such peace will prevail among animals. Issa 11. 6. 65. 25. Woman. An adult human female, one beyond the age of puberty. The Hebrew expression for woman is ishmiddle.sha, literally, a female man, which is also rendered wife. Similarly, the Greek term gmiddle.ne is translated both woman and wife. Creation. Before the man Adam ever asked for a human companion, God his creator made provision. After placing Adam in the Garden of Eden and giving him the law respecting the tree of the knowledge of good and bad, Jehovah said, "It is not good for the man to continue by himself. I am going to make a helper for him, as a complement of him." Ge 2. 18. He did not oblige the man to go seeking a companion among the animals, but he brought the animals otex to a acute muritra longo. Woman 1196 reference to her position as a wife. The primary duty of all women in Israel was to serve Jehovah God in true worship. Abigail, who became the wife of David after her good-for-nothing husband Nabal died, was an example of this. Even though Nabal took a bad course, refusing to use his material goods to help David, the anointed of Jehovah, Abigail realized that she, as Nabal's wife, was not obligated to follow her husband in such action contrary to Jehovah's will. Jehovah blessed her when her assisting his anointed one showed her persistence in right worship. 1 Sir 25. 23-31, 39-42. Secondarily, the woman was to obey her husband. She was responsible to work hard for the good of the household and to bring honor to her husbandly head. This would bring the greatest glory to her. Proverbs 14. 1 says, "The truly wise woman has built up her house, but the foolish one tears it down with her own hands." She should always speak well of her husband and increase the respect of others for him, and he should be able to take pride in her. A capable wife is a crown to her owner, but as rottenness in his bones is she that acts shamefully. PR 12. For the honorable position and the privileges she has as a wife, together with the blessings to her because of faithfulness, industriousness, and wisdom, are described in Proverbs chapter 31. See wife. A Hebrew woman who was a mother had much to do with the training of her children in righteousness, respectfulness, and industriousness, and often did much in counseling and influencing older sons for good. GE 27. 5-10. X2. 7-10. PR1. 8. 31. 1. 2T1. 5. 3. 14. 15 girls, especially, were trained to be good wives by learning from their mothers the arts of cooking, weaving, and general household management, while the father taught the son a trade. Wives also were free to express themselves to their husbands. GE 16. 5, 6 and at times aided their husbands in arriving at right decisions. GE 21. 9-13. 27. 46. 28. 4. The bride was usually selected for a man by the parents. But, doubtless under the law, as it was earlier in Rebecca's case, the girl had an opportunity to voice her feelings and will in the matter. GE 24. 57, 58. Although polygamy was practiced, God not yet acting to restore the original state of monogamy until the Christian congregation was established. GE 2. 23, 24. Mount 19. 4-6. 1T3. 2. Polygamous relationships were regulated. Even the military laws favored both wife and husband in exempting a newly married man for 1 year. This gave the couple the opportunity to exercise their right to have a child, which would be a great comfort to the mother when the husband was away, and even more so if he should die in battle. The 20. 7. 24. 5. Laws applied with equal force to both men and women who were guilty of adultery, incest, bestiality, and other crimes. Law 18. 6, 23. 20. 10-12. The 22. 22. Women were not to wear the clothing of a man or a man the clothing of a woman, a practice that might open the way for immorality, including homosexuality. The 22. 5. Women could participate in the benefits of the Sabbaths, the laws governing Nazirettes, the festivals, and, in general, all the provisions of the law. X20. 10. New 6. 2. The 12. 18. 16. 11. 14. The mother, as well as the father, was to be honored and obeyed. The 19. 3. 20. 9. The 5. 16. 27. 16. Privileges in the Christian congregation. For those called by God to the heavenly calling. Heb 3. 1. To be joint heirs with Jesus Christ, there is no distinction between men and women in a spiritual sense. The Apostle writes, "You are all, in fact, sons of God through your faith in Christ." There is neither male nor female. For you are all one person in union with Christ Jesus. 3. 26-28. These all must receive a change of nature at their resurrection, being made partakers together of divine nature, in which state none will be women, for there is no female sex among spirit creatures. O textoi acute miritra longo. Orman 1197. Among those who bore the responsibility to be witnesses of Jesus in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and to the most distant part of the earth. Consistent with that, the Apostle Paul later reported that Euodia and Syntyche, in Philippi, had striven side by side with him in the good news. And Luke mentioned Priscilla as sharing with her husband Aquila in expounding the way of God in Ephesus. PHP 4. 2, 3. Ac 18. 26. Congregational meetings. There were meetings when these women could pray or prophesy, provided they wore a head covering. 1 Co 11. 3-16. See head covering. However, at what were evidently public meetings, when the whole congregation as well as unbelievers assembled in one place. 1 Co 14. 23-25, women were to keep silent. If they wanted to learn something, they could question their own husbands at home, for it was disgraceful for a woman to speak in a congregation. 1 Co 14. 31-35. While not permitted to teach in congregational assembly, a woman could teach persons outside the congregation who desired to learn the truth of the Bible and the good news about Jesus Christ. Compare PS 68. 11. As well as be a teacher of what is good to younger women and children within the congregation. 2. 3-5 But she was not to exercise authority over a man or dispute with men, as, for example, in the meetings of the congregation. She was to remember what happened to Eve and how God expressed the matter of woman's position after Adam and Eve had sinned. 1T2. 11-14. GE 3. 16. Men serve as overseers, ministerial servants. In the discussion of gifts in men given by Christ to the congregation, there is no mention of women. The words apostles, prophets, evangelizers, shepherds, and teachers are all in the masculine gender. F4. 8, 11 Ephesians 4. 11 is rendered by the American translation. And he has given us some men as apostles, some as prophets, some as missionaries, some as pastors and teachers. Compare Mo, N.W. Also PS 68. 18. In full accord with this, when the Apostle Paul wrote to Timothy about the qualifications for the service positions of overseers e-pisco-poi, who were also older men pre-spita-roi, and of ministerial servants di-ko-noi in the congregation, he specifically states that they must be men and, if married, the husband of one wife. No discussion by any of the apostles discusses any office of deaconess di-ko-nis-sa. 1T3. 1-13. Tit 1. 5-9. Compare Act 20. 17, 28. PHP 1. 1. Although Phoebe is mentioned row 16. 1 is a minister di-ko numbers, without the Greek definite article, it is evident that she was not an appointed female ministerial servant in the congregation, because the scriptures make no provision for such. The apostle did not tell the congregation to receive instructions from her but, rather, to receive her well and to assist her in any matter where she might need them. Row 16. 2 Paul's reference to her as a minister evidently has something to do with her activity in the spreading of the good news, and he was speaking of Phoebe as a female minister who was associated with the congregation in Cenchreae. Compare Act 2. 17, 18. In the home. The woman is described in the scriptures as a weaker vessel, the feminine one. She is to be treated accordingly by her husband. 1P3. 7 She has many privileges, such as sharing in teaching the children and generally managing the internal affairs of the household, under her husband's approval and direction. 1T5. 14. 1P3. 1, 2. PR1. 8. 6. 20. Chap 31 She has the duty of submission to her husband. F5. 22-24 She owes him the marital due. 1 Co 7. 3-5. Adornment. The Bible throughout does not condemn adornment in clothing or the wearing of jewelry, but it commands that modesty and propriety be the governing factors. The apostle instructs that feminine dress be well arranged and that women adorn themselves with modesty, and o textoi acute miritra longo, Orman 1198 him a few days before his death, and for her act Jesus promised. Wherever this good news is preached in all the world, what this woman did shall also be told as a remembrance of her. Mount 26. 6-13. Joe 12. 1-8 Women were among those to whom Jesus especially appeared on the day of his resurrection, and women were among those to whom he appeared later. Mount 28. 1-10. Joe 20. 1-18. Figurative use. In several instances women are used symbolically to represent congregations or organizations of people. They also are employed to symbolize cities. Christ's glorified congregation is spoken of as his bride, also called the Holy City, New Jerusalem. Joe 3. 29. Re 21. 2, 9. 19. 7. Compare F5. 23-27. Mount 9. 15. Mr. 2. 20. 5. 34, 35. Jehovah spoke to the congregation or nation of Israel as his woman, he being as a husbandly honor to her by reason of the law covenant relationship between them. In restoration prophecies he speaks to Israel in this way, sometimes directing his words to Jerusalem, the governing city of the nation. The sons and daughters Isra 43. 5-7 of this woman were the members of the nation of Israel. Isra 51. 17-23. 52. 1, 2. 54. 1, 5, 6, 11-13. 66. 10-12. J 3. 14. 31. 31, 32. In many instances other nations or cities are referred to as feminine or as women. A few are: Moab J 48. 41, Egypt J 46. 11, Rabbah of Ammon J 49. 2, Babylon J 51. 13, and symbolic Babylon the Great. Re 17. 1-6. See Babylon the Great. Daughter. The woman of Genesis 3. 15. At the time that he sentenced humankind's parents, Adam and Eve, God gave the promise of a seed that would be brought forth by the woman, and who would crush the serpent's head. Ge 3. 15. Here was a sacred secret that God purposed to reveal in his due time. Col 1. 26. Some factors in the circumstances existing at the time of the prophetic promise provide clues as to the woman's identity. Since her seed was to crush the serpent's head, he would have to be more than a human seed, for the scriptures show that it was not to a literal snake on the ground that God's words were aimed. The serpent is shown at Revelation 12. 9 to be Satan the devil, a spirit person. Consequently, the woman of the prophecy could not be a human woman, such as Mary the mother of Jesus. The apostle sheds light on the matter at Galatians 4. 21-31. See seed. In this passage the apostle speaks of Abraham's free wife and of his concubine Hagar, and says that Hagar corresponds to the literal city of Jerusalem under the law covenant, her children being the citizens of the Jewish nation. Abraham's wife Sarah, Paul says, corresponds to the Jerusalem above, who is the spiritual mother of Paul and his spirit-begotten associates. This heavenly mother would be also the mother of Christ, who is the oldest among his spiritual brothers, all of whom spring from God as their father. Heb 2. 11, 12. See free woman. It would follow logically and in harmony with the scriptures that the woman of Genesis 3. 15 would be a spiritual woman. And corresponding to the fact that the bride, or wife, of Christ is not an individual woman, but a composite one, made of many spiritual members. Re 21. 9. The woman who brings forth God's spirit-begotten sons, God's wife, prophetically foretold in the words of Isaiah and Jeremiah as cited in the foregoing, would be made up of many spiritual persons. It would be a composite body of persons, an organization, a heavenly one. This woman is described in John's vision, in Revelation chapter 12. She is shown as bringing forth a son, a ruler who is to shepherd all the nations with an iron rod. Compare PS2. 6-9. 110. 1, 2. This vision was given to John long after Jesus' human birth and also after his anointing as God's Messiah. Since it obviously has to do with the same person, it must have reference, not to Jesus' human birth, but to some other event, namely, his o textoi acute miritra longo, womb 1199. Women will actually grab hold of one man in that day, saying, "We shall eat our own bread and wear our own mantles. Only may we be called by your name to take away our reproach." Issa 4. 1 in the preceding 2 verses. Issa 3. 25, 26. God had pointed out that Israel's men would fall by war. So he was telling Israel of the inroads such conditions would make on the manpower of the nation, creating such a shortage that several women would attach themselves to one man. They would be glad to take his name and have some male attentions, even if they had to share him with other women. They would accept polygamy or concubinage to have some little part in a man's life. Thereby some of the reproach of widowhood or of the unmarried state, and childlessness, would be removed. In a prophecy comforting Israel, Jehovah said, How long will you turn this way and that, O unfaithful daughter? For Jehovah has created a new thing in the earth. A mere female will press around an able-bodied man. The woman woos the man. At 31:22 up until